2 out of 3 major U.S. cell carriers are reported to be in technical trials with Helium 5G. This headline does not seem to have moved the price of HNT in any significant way, and we do not have enough information just yet to know if this is just good news or in fact amazing news. But this is certainly a step in the right direction. A partnership with any of these MNOs will certainly create a competitive advantage for the carrier compared to its peers, regardless of how big or small that advantage is. And this will ultimately drive the other carriers to follow suit and tap into the Helium ecosystem. However, the most important fact, which has not been clarified and which has been discussed by Tushar Jain since January of this year, is exactly how are they using or tapping into the Helium network. This should be the question on everyone's mind, and it has been asked just yesterday by Boris Rensky, the founder of FreedomFi. Let's take a look at the details in today's video. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another video here in the Crypto Compound channel. I hope you guys are all having a great day. Please hit that like and subscribe on the way in. In today's video, we are going to be discussing the latest Helium headline here, posted yesterday from Arman, breaking 2 out of 3 major US cell carriers are in technical trials with Helium 5G. This, of course, is very big news and even has some people here in the Discord asking, is this real? And it certainly is. Arman then immediately confirms it just below. But of course, this is good news regardless of what we are going to discuss in today's video. However, there are some very, very important questions that we need to ask with regards to these MNOs and their integration or interaction or partnership with Helium 5G. These questions were addressed just down below here from Zero Tweets, also known as Boris Rensky, the founder of FreedomFi, and the concept at which Boris is poking at was actually discussed all the way back on January 26th of this year in the Helium community call, where Tushar addresses it specifically. I also think that this concept that Boris is referring to, that Tushar Jain also refers to in the Helium community call, is part of the reason why Amir just about a week ago referred to HIP 51 and saying that it is going to blow some minds. I really think that this concept, this structure, is the future of Helium, and it really is where the value is. So let's get into the details. Right away after this was announced here in the Discord, we have Boris down here, and he explains this exactly correct. We are going to talk about what Tushar Jain said in January just after we get into what actually is being said and really what would make this partnership or these integrations with Helium from these major US MNOs extremely successful. Now, Boris says, this is indeed good news, but I feel that many are thinking of success of the mobile DAO in somewhat simplified black or white terms, i.e. we have a big MNO offload equals success and we don't equals failure. This reality is more nuanced. Even when big MNOs start offloading, they don't switch all of their subscribers over at once. The key isn't to just get a nod from an MNO, but to be able to scale it. I am personally excited about the service provider becoming an explicit entity in the DAO. I feel this will allow us to create competition between various service providers, big and small, to actually meaningfully move the needle on data offload. He continues to say, I don't mean to rain on my own parade. Of course, he is the founder of FreedomFi, but I want to set the expectations straight. And then he references the latest Helium Mobile DAO outline, which is here in the HIP 53 GitHub page. And this has been updated recently. We will talk more about this in future videos, but there's a lot of new information here in these HIPs. So guys, I think Boris here is really trying to stress the fact that this type of integration with these MNOs is far more complicated than just a on or off switch. He explicitly references the service provider becoming an explicit entity in the DAO. Now, that is exactly what Tushar Jain laid out in this Helium community call back on January 26th. He references this type of setup and even references some of these larger carriers by name in this clip.
What this allows is, like, as long as the code is open source, which I just see as a core value of everything that we do here, right? Like, if I am AT&T, I can come in and I can say, hey, this 5G validator code is really interesting. I want to propose an AT&T 5G sub-DAO that uses AT&T spectrum, and now you as a user can actually help build out that network if you want to, right? Like no one's going to force anything, but provide that choice and make sure that everything is interoperable. I think that is the one rule that we are enforcing, is that data credits can pay for data on any network. I think that's really important to make sure that the economic flywheel of the Helium network stays intact and in fact accelerates through this.
So guys, that was Tushar back in January of this year discussing how major carriers, he used AT&T as an example, can actually come and create their own protocol, their own sub-DAO here on the Helium network thanks to the new DAO structure. And I do think that that is exactly what Amir is referring to when he mentions the work that is going into HIP 51. As we know, HIP 51 is the Helium DAO. That is the L1. L2s are everything underneath it. I think that this is exactly what Tushar and Amir are referencing. And being that Tushar said that all the way back in January, I really do believe that that type of setup is the one that is taking place with these MNOs. And I really hope that that is the type of setup. I hope they are not just tapping into a generalized 5G sub-DAO here for Helium. I really hope that Helium is pushing them to really open their own sub-DAO on the Helium network. If that is the case, then this is tremendous, tremendous news. If that's not the case and they are just testing the waters with regards to the actual scope of the network, then I would just consider this good news. I think the real value is in the sub-DAOs and the interoperability of these sub-DAOs, as Tushar mentioned. And of course, we have to remember Tushar is a part of Multicoin Capital, and he does mention the economic flywheel of the Helium network. So he is making sure, of course, with his vision of how these DAOs will interact, he is making sure that the economics do remain intact, which is incredibly important for HNT, which ultimately is the foundational currency of the larger Helium DAO structure. Guys, lastly, I do want to touch on the summary page here on HIP 53, the mobile sub-DAO, which has been updated recently. They do also mention AT&T and Verizon, and they also mention the sort of hybrid system that Boris is alluding to. They say future networks will likely be a hybrid combination of macro operators and crowdsourced 5G Wi-Fi hotspots due to demand of consumer behavior and the physics of wireless radio. More data on the wireless network requires higher frequency bands, which requires denser networks with more nodes, which further increases cost of acquisition. The crowdsourced model removes site acquisition costs from the equation. It is not realistic to blanket the world in Wi-Fi or CBRS in the near future and completely replace service providers altogether. Instead, we see service providers as a critical component of this ecosystem and design Helium mobile DAO economics taking that critical tenet into account. So I think that this summary really translates into this sub-DAO structure being an onboard ramp for new decentralized network protocols. And I think that they, of course, will be pushing large carriers such as AT&T and Verizon, perhaps the two that are already in these clinical trials. I do believe they will be pushing them to this sub-DAO structure. Guys, of course, this is good news no matter what, but it does have the possibility to be game-changing news if Boris here is correct. Guys, let me know your comments down below. This is very exciting stuff, and it also is pretty complicated. Leave your comments down below. I will try my best to get to all of them, and I will encourage you guys to read the actual HIPs in the GitHub. They have so much information in there. It is really, really interesting. Some of it gets very complicated, but if you go through it a few times, it starts to make more and more sense. We will talk more about these HIPs and this DAO structure in future videos. Thank you guys all so much for being here. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Please hit that like and subscribe if you want to stay up to date on the latest Helium and HNT news and analysis. But just like that, this video is over, and I will see you